Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, disruptors, to Mindset Mastery Moments, the space where we disrupt limitations, rewire belief systems, and elevate what's possible. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Alisa Whyte, the number one mindset disruptor. And today we are diving into a story that perfectly embodies the power of mindset to transformation, not just in business, but in an entire life trajectory. My guest today is Ms. Rebecca Page-Chapman, MBA. She is an award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, and business coach who has mastered the art of reinvention. And you all know I am a sucker because I have lived a journey of reinvention myself. So anywhere where I can learn more and grow and reinvent myself even further, I am here for it. She went from building a 7-figure franchise system in Canada to losing it all. You know, if she's here, she rose again. She rose again, stronger, freer, and more aligned than ever before. She didn't just rebuild a business, she rebuilt herself from location-bound business owner to global entrepreneur. From too old to start over to earning her MBA in her 50s and coaching clients worldwide. Her journey is a real-time case study in what happens when you stop surrendering to circumstances and start leading with mindset mastery. Rebecca, we are so honored to have you here on Mindset Mastery Moments. Tell us who you are in your own words, what you do, and exactly why you did all this stuff and reinvented yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really thrilled to be here. And it really comes down to what I live by, which is change is always possible. And
Yes.
I absolutely live by that. So passionate about entrepreneurship. For as long as I can remember, I think my very first entrepreneurial venture was I was about 6 years old, and I decided that I had a whole stockpile of comics from the summer that I wanted to sell, and I organized a garage sale, like a little lawn sale. And now I recognize this was my very first marketing campaign. And I had so many people telling me that's not a good idea and this is stupid, what you're doing and you're weird. And I'm like, no, I got to be me. I got to do this. I'm driven to do this. And I did. And I sold every. So that was sort of my introduction to entrepreneurship. And then, when I grew up in Toronto in the 70s, and in my family and everyone around me, they had jobs, right? They went to offices and they sat in cubicles and they worked for big corporations. And I just felt this I don't know what that is, but I don't want that. But I really didn't know what the alternative was. Entrepreneurship was not a word that I had heard growing up in the 70s.
Right. Yeah, I need to decide.
And what really, yeah, exactly, right? And I was really introduced to it by a book. Of course, I'm an avid reader still. And the book is called The Toothpaste Millionaire, about this kid who basically invented his own toothpaste and manufactured it and built a successful business. And this just lit a fire in me when I realized that, you can just start your own thing. You don't have to just go get a job in a cubicle. You can create your own business. And I just was so enamored by that idea.
Yes.
But, then life sweeps you along as it does. And I got, finished school and I went to university. I got a degree and I did a bit of traveling, lived overseas for a bit and came back to Toronto. And then guess what? I found myself in a cubicle job. How did I end up here? Right?
Right? Oh my gosh. And
Right?
can I just say that right there is a pain for someone who has an entrepreneurial fire in their belly. However, we know we have to do it. So tell us, you're telling my story.
Okay. Yeah, you hear it. But this was a while ago. So it's in this funky little office in downtown Toronto in an internet company when the internet was a brand new thing. And I realize now that it was a very entrepreneurial environment, which is why I thrived there. So
Yes.
I joined as the only human resources person, small company, small team. And within 18 months, we had tripled in size. And then I was managing a team of 5. And
Mhm.
I really thrived there because it was about being creative, finding a ways to track and monitor KPIs, dashboards. This is before I knew any of that lingo, but that's what I was doing.
They were,
And
yeah.
I really loved it. And then the little company I worked for got sucked up into the mothership of the corporate entity that had funded it.
I love
And
that.
then all the fun went. All the fun went. Suddenly,
Yeah.
it was fill out this form and fax it to the office in Montreal and fill
Mhm.
this. And I was like, okay. So it was a real decision point in my life because, okay, it's a cushy job, it's a big salary, it's got the pension and the stock options and like all of these bells and whistles. But I
Mhm.
absolutely hated what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like depressed on Sunday night, knowing that I had to go back in that office on Monday. And I remember one particular Monday going and sitting outside. It's like I couldn't even bring myself to enter the building. It was just such a soul sucking experience. So I was like, okay,
Yes.
am I
Gosh.
going to stay in this path and hang in there until I retire the way I saw so many people do?
Yes.
Or do I tap into what I always said I wanted to do, which was
Mm.
start my own business? And at the
Yes.
time, I had a young daughter, and I felt a responsibility to be a role model for her. I'm like, what do I want her to
Yeah.
see? Do I want her to see me hate my life but do it for the paycheck? Or do I want her to see me, right? Or do I want
Mhm.
her to see me being brave, going for what I believe in, following my passion, being true to myself?
Yes.
So I started a company in the corner of my basement with that toddler playing at my feet. And I spent about a year developing the concept and the business model. And took a lot of inspiration from what I observed working with, these VP and director level people in this
Mhm.
company. And I started a business, in Ottawa, and I built it and then franchised it. And at one point, there were like 5 locations in 3 different cities in Ontario. It was, it went very well. I made a lot of mistakes, no doubt. I also did a lot of things really well. And
Mhm.
by the end, my ops team was handling all the day-to-day stuff. And I had
Yeah.
moved very much into this role of coaching my franchisees because
Mhm.
they were moving out of being an employee to being an
Yes.
employer, which is a big mindset shift. So in addition to understanding like the mechanics of how to run the business that they had invested in, had joined the franchise system, there was also the mindset work of being a leader, communicating, being,
Yes.
what kind of boss did they want to be? So
Mhm.
to support that, I did take a couple of coaching courses around that time to just better equip me to be that coach and mentor for them. And so
Yes.
I'd had the little inkling at the time. I'm like, maybe this is something that I'll do. Maybe I'll like be a business coach, but how that was going to happen and when
Yes.
that was going to happen, I had like just no idea. I just
No.
didn't see beyond. I
Yeah.
didn't see beyond the business. And then guess what? COVID shut down the whole world.
Here comes COVID.
Here comes
Party
COVID.
time.
And yeah, and as a service business, providing services to residential homes, we were shut down overnight. And about 30% of our revenue came from people who traveled. And of course, that got shut down. So we went, to zero overnight. And, and the way that the closures were handled, sometimes we would be allowed to open, but then people were like, well, no, I don't want anyone coming to my home. Like,
Yeah.
because the news say that you can operate, I don't want any services.
Right.
And or staff were like, I don't want to work because I don't feel comfortable going out, or I can't work because the school's closed. So I'm at home with my kids because the schools and daycares are closed, so I can't work. So there were just
Yeah.
all of these different pressures that just prevented us from operating. So we, about a year later, it was like, okay, it's time to let this go. Time to move on. So, not one to do things in small steps. I did a huge life reboot and I, closed the business, sold my house, my car, ended a 6-year relationship, and moved to the UK with my moody teenage daughter
Goodness.
and went back to school
And went back
to
to
do my
school.
MBA.
Yes. Yes. which we are obviously, I think a lot of times when you've journeyed the journey of getting your MBA, I think people don't really understand what the celebration truly is. It's not as much as having that title. That's just a cherry on top. It is that journey and discipline. The same reason why so many people don't have one. Even though we're like, oh, everybody has one. No, they don't. Okay. Some people didn't even finish high school because that discipline to go through is grueling. And that's where a lot of you is tested. But if you've journeyed through it, a lot of you're built or rebuilt and redesigned. So I am super proud of you for all of that. And the story that we get is that it is okay. And it's a mindset shift to understand that reinventing yourself and making those changes and embracing sometimes what would look like a curveball or a roadblock in life. Once you stand and you said, I am going to move and shift and change with a mindset of how can I get through? How can I still, you have a vision for your life. So that doesn't change, but the journey to said destination, vision, or dream it's not static. It changes. So you showed us in your journey already that success as you know it can be on your own terms as long as you're willing to make the shift and go through the changes and adaptation that you need to do to get there. And here we are. So I'm definitely, like, you already gave us a masterclass and we're not even started yet. Listen, I am at heart an entrepreneur. I tell people I'm an entrepreneur that speaks. I'm an entrepreneur that coaches. I'm an entrepreneur that teaches. I'm an entrepreneur that is a podcast host. I'm an entrepreneur that's a daughter. I'm an entrepreneur that's, it's like the entrepreneur comes at first. And I teach that having an entrepreneurial mindset is so beneficial to you no matter what your career path will be in life. Even if you're a stay-at-home mother, having an entrepreneurial mindset will really, really empower life's journey because we are people who don't stay looking at the storm. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You're like, oh, COVID? All right, I got something for you. Watch this. I'm going back to school. I'm moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay.
Exactly. There's that mindset. Yeah.
What do I want that to be? So, and it was an interesting crossing point as well because, I was getting near the end of my full-time parenting journey, and I'm now officially an empty nester. My youngest is now in her second year of university here in London. And so it's like, okay, so after raising kids for all these years, now suddenly that's over. What does that mean? So it was, which I know for a lot of people reaching, no matter what their journey is in terms of career or business, when they reach that point of being an empty nester, it's a big transition. What do you do? What do you do with that time? What do you do with that energy? How does that shift your identity of yourself after being a parent for so many years? I mean, you're always a parent. They're always going to need you. But when they're adults and they're living their own life and they're independent, it's a very different dynamic. It's a very different load and it's a very different relationship. Basically, as soon as my youngest turned 18, I was like, okay, I've always said I wanted to travel full time.
Yeah.
I'm going. And I went. I left London and I traveled for a full year. Living and working because I work with entrepreneurs all over the world and I work online. I'm location independent now. And so in the past 2 years, I've lived and worked out of 16 countries and 4 continents, and there's been some amazing stories, living on the beach and making calls from beautiful locations in Bali and Sri Lanka and all over the place.
She's living my life.
There's also been some challenging experiences for sure. Oh, I've been in the hospital with food poisoning more than once, I have to say. But you know what? It's
you're still here. Exactly. Yeah. You win and you learn. You never lose. You win and you learn. As long as you keep coming back and you're still here, you're learning. That's all that is. I tell people, you're learning.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious. So you used the phrase entrepreneurial mindset. I'm wondering, how would you define that exactly?
So for me, the entrepreneurial mindset is one that has a level of clarity about who they are and why they're here on earth. And then secondly, they are willing to take the risk and challenge status quo to get to understanding, now not knowing is static, but they're living in the full expression of themselves. And they know that what that looks like today, tomorrow could change, but the big overarching theme of their life doesn't change, but how they express it may be differently. And they're boldly pursuing the journey that positions them to express the full expression of themselves, whether it's through actual building a business or working in someone else's business or contracting and whatever that looks like in their career, because I believe that harmoniously they will create a life in their family, in their personal life and their professional life that is not balanced, but harmoniously facilitating the expression of who they are. They're willing to take risk. They don't stay stuck. They ask themselves, how can I, instead of what am I supposed to do? They learn how to build networks and systems out of nothing many times to get on the journey of where it is they want to go in the season of their life. That is the picture. Instead of giving it a definition, I create a picture. And they're quick to pivot. They're really quick to pivot. They have a plan that anticipate roadblocks, but the ones that come out of nowhere that they don't see, they're looking for, okay, how do I pivot? Never changing where they're going to go, but changing how they're going to get there. And that's just how they live. You see it as a theme in their personal and professional life. And like I said, it's never really truly balanced, so to speak, but there's so much harmony and fulfillment in them building and going instead of waiting for a destination to get to enjoy their life and who they are and why they're here. That's the picture. If I like to paint pictures. I started my journey as a preschool teacher and a literacy facilitator.
Wow.
As an entrepreneur. So one of the things I think people get is if I can create a picture for you, that's kind of how because I lost my memory at 14 years old, and I had to do therapy and coaching for a while to be able to get memory back on what's cheese, what's different things, how to take myself to bath, everything. They had to restart me. And so one of the ways I learned was connecting everything as pictures, so my memory is very vivid, things like that. So I try to get listeners and viewers or anyone I'm in front of to paint the picture. Does that make sense to you, Rebecca? My definition.
That makes so much sense, and that's so interesting. And I think that's such a powerful example of how much potential our brains have to heal, adapt, shift, transform. And I see that in working with clients sometimes. Like, even I was speaking with a new client today, and she's like, "Well, I always think blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. You've always thought that. You know what? Maybe you can shift that."
Right. How's that working for you?
Intentional. Yeah, exactly. It takes, it takes being intentional, and it takes practice in the same way that going to the gym or training for a marathon or learning a language. All of these things takes repetition and practice. And it's the same with mindset. It's the same with shifting your behaviors and in terms of as a leader in your business, with your team, all of that. So I loved what you shared about entrepreneurship. Really, for me, it comes down to two keywords, which is resiliency.
Come on.
And resiliency and, bravery, optimism. Those things are just so powerful because it's like everything you described. It's coming back and not just going, "Oh, well, that didn't work out. Oh, well, I guess it's not going to work out." No, find another way, try a different way.
Yes.
Analyze, look at the data, tweak something, try again.
Go again. Exactly.
Yeah.
I believe if I was following your pattern, the two words I would use would be clarity, confidence. And I guess when you put the confidence, that's your word, resiliency and all that is inside of that confidence. When you say entrepreneurial mindset, Alisa, what do you mean? But we're all, in the same way. So let's talk a little bit about breaking the pattern. When the franchise closed, many people might have seen that as the end, right? What was the moment you decided, no, this is the beginning? What really helped you? What we want to get into is what helped you flip that internal switch? Because I feel like we're digging in the making of an entrepreneur and then obviously a business coach, and then you'll coach us towards the end of this episode. So what was that internal switch that flipped? How did you do that? Like, it was like, how did she do that? That's what they ask me.
Great question. And to be fair, I mean, my particular experience was a bit of an anomaly because I just like all the switches, like the entire panel got changed, right? In terms of where I lived, right?
Come on now. Come on.
My whole identity as a franchisor and business owner, where I lived, all of it shifted. Suddenly I was, a student again after finishing my BA, like 30 years earlier. Like it was a lot. And I guess it comes down to seeing a vision for what I wanted my life to be. And it wasn't just, and it was several steps ahead, but you get there one step at a time.
Yes.
So because I had this idea of, the kernel of the idea was, okay, coaching, because, I had done some of that within, both with my team and my franchisees, and I knew I enjoyed that. And because I'd had some feedback of people saying that, oh, I really remember when you said blah, 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 and it helped me. So it sort of affirmed this idea that I can be of value in this role. I have something to contribute in this role. And I thought, okay, now I have, 20 years of business experience of starting a business from zero and growing it and franchising, which not everybody does.
Right.
And so I thought, right, okay, what do I need to make a life out of these few little crumbs? How do I make something out of this?
Right.
And
is this, can I make it? Can I make a dough? Can I make a dough?
Yeah, exactly. What other ingredients do I need, right? And sometimes a lot of this is time to make that transition, to put all the pieces together. Dough needs to rise, right? You need that. You need that processing time for sure.
Yes.
So yeah, and then I chose the MBA program because I wanted, well, also this was like in the depths of COVID when everything was completely closed. And I'm like, I need to do something. I can't turn on another Netflix show. Like I can't just keep, you know what I mean?
That's exactly what I'll tell you about that when you're done. Yeah.
I know, like I love reading. I can keep myself busy, but I need a purpose. I need destination.
Yes.
And when there were so many doors closed in terms of, what I could do in the world in this shutdown environment, I was like, okay, I can enroll for this program. That can be a goal that I can work towards and give me a sense of purpose. So yeah, so I started, and it was quite the journey. And I think too, I've had quite a few people and people who've known me for a long time ask, was it worth it? Like, did you get, what benefit did you get from it? And for me personally, it was two main things. It affirmed for me how much I really learned and knew from my lived experience of running a business. Because there were times during that program that like, okay, this is how, And I'm like, I did all that. I didn't know that that's what that was called.
Right. Now they're calling it all kinds of things and putting it in a bottle and selling it like a potion.
Right? It's like, oh, like that's a whole thing that has like a proper name. Like I just did it almost instinctively. So it affirmed how valuable my lived experience was and that I did know a lot. So that helped me feel confident enough to then position myself as a coach to help entrepreneurs. And then I learned all sorts of stuff that I didn't know. I learned frameworks, analytical frameworks that I'm like, man, I wish I'd known this back in that particular situation. Because I would have handled it differently. And so it just gave me a whole additional set of tools in addition to my experience. So yeah, it was absolutely worth it. I mean, though frankly, I think most of the people I work with don't really care that I have an MBA, but they're not really attached to that. I don't think.
Yes.
They don't really care. Right. But absolutely, it has given me valuable tools that I use then to help them.
Exactly. And it's the same I tell everyone, because I learn patterns and things that's what really supports my work. The discipline of the methods I learned in school to do research, to bring it together, make it make sense, and then bring it to people.
Education is about training your mind.
Yes.
The critical thinking, synthesizing information, the analysis, the perspective, all of that. It's training the mind. That's the value of education. It's not necessarily knowing a bunch of stuff. People can memorize things and be idiots and not know how to problem solve their way out of a paper bag, right?
Rebecca, you talk a lot about clarity and focus in business coaching. But for you personally, how did clarity come after what looked like chaos? What does that look like for you?
That's a great question. It really comes down to knowing what your purpose is and knowing what you want. For example, because it's the actions that lead to the outcome. And
Mm,
sometimes people get attached to needing to do certain actions. For example, I'm supposed to be making lots of videos and being like viral on TikTok and whatnot. But then I
mm,
speak to business owners who absolutely hate the idea of being on camera. They don't want to
right.
do that. They're not comfortable. They don't like it. They prefer to go talk to people. It's like, great. Then look at developing relationships, networking, build those connections, build your business that way. Just
Mm,
because a certain way, people are doing things a certain shiny way doesn't mean that it's right for you. So I think
exactly.
clarity comes with understanding your capabilities, what you enjoy doing, what your purpose is, and really making conscious decisions that align with that.
That is so powerful. I think that's the big piece is the conscious, I guess I call it conscious clarity.
Yeah.
Because it's like a combo of two words. I was making stuff up, but being aware of self purpose and then moving in clarity by getting the information that is needed to make the decision. Here's a question though, because I found that a lot of us entrepreneurs, and I say us because there was a time that I struggled with it, and it's a little bit of imposter syndrome, I believe. But we get to where that getting clarity, getting information becomes, it starts to where we're like, I have planned to do this, but however, I'm waiting on this information. I'm waiting on that. I'm doing this research. And while research and all of that is important business activities, we're looking for it to tell us a certain thing, to give us the green light. How do you speak into us that truly just we're there year one, year two, year three, and we still haven't started yet because we're looking for said information or I would say sometimes permission to go ahead and do it. What should be our mindset in that area?
Yeah, you've raised some really great points that giving permission is so powerful. And it really, I mean, it's like everything else, it's like it's balance. Because on
Mm-hmm.
one hand, to just, this is an idea, I'm going to run off and do it when someone, especially when they're entrepreneurial, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that sort of ADHD kind of, shiny object syndrome, lots of distractions,
Yeah,
and they're going to have like 10 ideas a day. But you can't
we
go
do.
chasing every idea that flies into your head. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not how success comes. Success comes from consistency. And
Mm-hmm.
so, so on one hand, it's like, okay, you can't just grab any idea and run with it. On the other hand, you can't just sit on it forever doing research, getting it perfect when it's ready, when it's perfect, because then it'll never get out there. So, sometimes I ask people, and this is where, I really like to ask challenging questions because I hear someone say something like, when it's ready, then I'll get it out there. Okay, what's ready look like for you? What's ready really?
Mm-hmm.
Because they might be holding themselves to some standard which isn't even possible because it's a
Right.
way to sort of justify why it still hasn't launched yet. It's just not
Mm-hmm.
ready. It's not ready. It's
Mm-hmm.
not ready. Okay, but if you want to get it out there, so that's where, again, checking into what's your motivation? uh, why are you doing this? What's the outcome that you want? Because if you want that result, you're going to have to do the thing, which
Mm-hmm.
will be launching it. And so that's where the value of having, a coach, a mentor, a friend, someone who can sort of hold your hand and go, okay, you've done enough. You've found that sweet spot between you didn't just grab an idea and run with it 5 minutes later, but you
Right.
also, you know enough. It's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's good
Right.
enough. Put it out there because the only way to know how something's going to land with your audience, the only way you're going to know if an idea has traction is to get it out there into the world and then measure, monitor, pay attention, be open for the opportunities to tweak and adjust in order to get the results that you want.
I love it. I heard you say three powerful things. Number one is just do it. Just do the darn thing. You have some clarity already. You have a sort of a roadmap and a concept that you know you're clear that it's something you should be offering or bring into the
Mm,
world. That clarity is there. There's no confusion of whether you should be doing it. The how you're going to do it is where you're getting stuck. Right.
yeah.
So at some point, you're just going to have to do it. Get a coach, a mentor, someone who has walked that journey before. Say it's always the biggest cheat code you can have in life, in business, is a mentor or a coach that has already walked and accomplished and really kicked butt in that area that you're working on currently. Sometimes at different points, you're going to have different ones. Then you also said, be open that when you do put it out, it may not go as you envisioned it, but pivot. And so you also are giving us, in a way, know that when that happens, when you get to number three, it's not failure.
Yeah.
It's forward movement because now you have
Mhm.
way more information that actually pushes you in the direction to move forward, and you have more clarity than you ever did only because you actually stepped out and did the thing. So powerful. Now, again, I keep saying we don't have to continue recording. Just go do that and call Rebecca. Really, because if you can grasp that, you will change a lot about your business and your journey. If you just take what Rebecca just gave us in the last 4 minutes, it would be so powerful. But guess what? We got more. So here's a question I have for you, Rebecca. This is about the mindset rebuild because there's something phenomenal that you did. You told us about in the first segment. You shifted from a traditional business structure to becoming a global entrepreneur. All my stuff. I'm going to be up in your business now, sister. That takes so much courage and conviction. What limiting beliefs did you have to confront and step into to become the next version of yourself in that arena? Because let's just face it, I am one of those people who desire to be exactly the way you have journeyed when I grow up, is to be that person. I'm a global entrepreneur, but I didn't actually live in the different countries and stuff like that yet and have all my freedom back. So tell us, what were those limiting beliefs that you had, how you confronted them and birthed that person that you've become?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, you said the magic word is journey. There is no
Mm,
magic bullet.
come on.
It is definitely a process of shifting that mindset. And I think it's twofold. It's letting go of what was,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be an emotional journey as well, because there it's, like we were saying earlier about the kids growing up and you're an empty nester, or a business closes, a job ends, a relationship ends, all of these big shifts that happen in life. There is a process of letting that go and grieving it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think if you don't, then attachment to it is going to hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
So being okay with it, celebrating it, and then deciding, okay, what out of that is the value for me still that I can take with me and move forward?
Oh, I love it. That is a mindset.
So, and I think a key thing for me was I had, 20 plus years ago, I had a certain goal in mind. I had this dream of I'm going to start this business from zero and
Mm-hmm.
build a brand in my city, and I'm going to franchise it. And that seemed like crazy. Like, how can I? But I did it. I did it. I had a goal
Right.
to win, a few different key business awards in my city. 40 under 40, Businesswoman of the Year award. I went to the galas. I watched the other women get on stage and win these awards and be in the newspaper and television. And I'm like, I want to win that one day. And I did. So, what
Mm,
I really took from all of that experience was when I set a goal, I can make it happen.
mm.
So, okay, what's my next goal? My goal was I want to be location independent. I want to work online with entrepreneurs using all my experience and education to help people. And I want to be able to do it from anywhere. It's like, okay, that's my goal. Then how do I make it happen? And then,
how can
like
I?
anything else, okay, what are the pieces I need to put into place? So, yeah, does that sort of help give you
Yes.
sort of a roadmap of what that process was for me?
Absolutely. Because what you're helping us do is think through it because our journey might look a little bit different, even though we may have similar goals. But it's always, this is why the podcast exists to hold the space that it all begins with how you're thinking. Those thoughts will become what you begin to speak, and it will become how you act, what you do, the habits you create, the shots you take, the shots you don't take, and ultimately is what you become, the results you get. So it's think, speak, do, become all day. Honestly, what is a house? How do we build a house without a solid foundation? We can't.
Oh,
It wouldn't
100%.
sustain time. And for our lives and our businesses, it is our mindset. Like I don't, and that's a mindset that number one begins with that clarity. So one of the things, go ahead. Let me let you respond before I jump in because I have
Oh, yeah,
another
yeah.
great question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. No, I'm eager to hear that. But you mentioned about how vocabulary is so important. And that's something
Yes.
I call people on as well when I hear people say, I can't. Okay, well, what do you mean by can't?
Mm,
Because
mm-mm.
they might be telling themselves these limiting beliefs and not even know, or I hear people say, well, if I can, it's not if, it's when,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, if I can land my first client. No, 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 it's when, because all of these ways, it's just, understanding how the brain works and
Mhm.
how, as you said, it's just the foundation for everything. What we tell ourselves, what we believe
Yes.
does impact all of the decisions that we make. It directly relates to how brave we are with taking those actions.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely. It's funny what you emphasize because that's the big part. When you hear yourself speak, that is a good indication of what your thoughts are and how your mind is set. Right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
it's always good to take inventory of what you're hearing yourself say. So many times we can hear or we're saying active listener, being more a listener than a talker. But I need you and I invite you actually to listen to you because at the end of the day, you're in relationship with yourself first. That is the relationship
Yeah.
that matters most. And a lot of times we're like, well, he said blah, 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 and she did it. And I can't believe and it's because you said, I want you to listen to your audible words and your thought words. And it
Hmm.
really locates your geographic positioning in what you say you want out of life. And so, quick story just recently, I was a part of an event and there was an icebreaker and the speaker or the trainer asked um if money was not an object or an issue, what would you do? Or where would you live? And I was like, okay, I'm sending this one out because I have had to and continue to do a lot of work around my money mindset. It's an ongoing process because there's levels to it. I created a course and a workbook and a journal, all that wonderful stuff earlier on as I broke through. I was sharing with people and I still continue. There's levels to it. So when I was going to sit it out, Rebecca, and then he said, "Oh, Alisa." And I was like, dang, being true to myself, I said, I just want you all to know I'm going to rephrase this because this is how I've been thinking for the longest while. I said, when I have my money in my account, when it shows up, because it's on its way, I will live and work in several different countries. I will be in the Maldives. I will be in Malta. I will be on several countries in Africa, Cape Cod. Just if you find me, I'm going to be living partially back in my home country and a few other islands in the Caribbean. And then I still get to figure out more. And I said, but that's how I phrase what you're probably saying. I'm not better, but I have accountability to my words. I don't like when I have to do that but I'm going to show up holding myself accountable for what I say I want. And so in that
Hmm.
case, there were 40 something other people in the room. And I was like, I hope I don't look like I'm trying to be Miss Perfect, but I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Freak it. I'm just going to be me because me, I'm in training and I was not going to, it's like For me, it would have been the equivalent of an alcoholic taking a shot of whiskey and thinking, oh, it's just one night. I'm going to be okay tomorrow because I'm with these people who are drinking whiskey. I was not going to use the word if money was an issue, because if money ever becomes an issue for me again, that's what it will be, an issue. And I know that maybe everyone's on their own journey, but that was my thoughts. Does that resonate with you? And give me feedback. I would love to hear that, because someone's listening to us and be like, how do I really keep up if I'm doing all this listening? There's reframing. You have to reframe.
Always about reframing. It's perspective. It's checking your own biases and assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, no one's going to want this. Based on what? Based on the one person you spoke to who said it's not a good idea. Well, you're going to like, check that. Is that really
Mm-hmm.
you're going to make, and it comes down to who's in charge,
Yes.
who's piloting the ship that is your life. Are you going to make those decisions,
Mm,
or are you going to let the input of everybody around you? And it's
come
like
on.
input, not perspective. Again, it's balance, because getting someone's perspective and helping them challenge your assumptions and biases and saying, hey, did you notice that you're saying if instead of when? That kind of thing, really valuable. But
Yeah.
someone saying, you're not good enough to do that, it'll never work. Nobody wants to buy that, it'll never work. Well, now you're just sharing like an opinion based, maybe, driven out of your own limiting beliefs and your own fears and your own insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to let that
Come on.
guide my life.
Come on. I have to ask you, with current events, as a business professional and as someone who guides and coaches, actual coaches and business and entrepreneurs, there's so much happening in the world right now. We're not necessarily talking about that, but we are aware and we know so much in the economy and a lot of uncertainty in things. Someone said to me, well, no one's really listening to podcasts right now, and I'm like, I can understand the part where you said there's so much happening and people are paying a lot of attention to that. But every day I have at least 5 or 6 people in my inbox who are building their brands and their business. And some of them have already built and they're at the pinnacle of success, but they want to keep getting the word out and encouraging people to continue their journey. How is that? And so I was challenged. And so for the entrepreneur or the budding entrepreneur who's listening, Rebecca, what would you say to them about being sensitive and quote unquote realistic of the times, but staying focused in what they're called to do?
Yeah, I'm a history nerd. My undergrad was in history. I still read a lot of history. A lot of my travels has been to, visit sites with a lot of history there. And so I
Mm,
always, look at things from a very macro perspective. And yeah, there's a lot of transition, a lot of shifts happening in the world right now. But you know what?
mhm.
It's always been that way. It's always
Now,
been that way. So that's life. That's life. That's human history. And to some extent, it's being amplified right now because we have this, you know, news coming at us every second on every device, right? Once
right.
upon a time in my childhood, there was the 6 o'clock news, it was in the morning newspaper, and then otherwise you just like lived your life and did your thing in the
Love
sphere of
it.
influence that you had in your
Right.
neighborhood, in your city, in your community. I'm going to live my life in touching the people I can touch and influencing what I can influence. Now it's like we're just fed stuff that's happening from all over the world, like within seconds of it happening, and it can
Yes.
feel overwhelming.
Yes.
And not to be insensitive with everything that's going on and the suffering that
Right.
has going on, and again, unfortunately, has always been the case.
The world
Um,
wars. I mean, yeah.
That world war yeah,
Yeah.
there's always that's always the case, but, like, look at what you know, what can you do in your life to make a difference? How can you have an
Mm-hmm.
impact? What do you have control over? And,
Mm-hmm.
and to do what you can. Is it volunteering? Is it, I see people who like donate a portion of their profits to a cause that they believe in. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of ways to even just sort of energetically, symbolically support something that they believe in the wider world while still creating success in the sphere of influence that they have.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. That is sound guidance, not advice, guidance. So, Rebecca, your clients describe your coaching as supportive but deeply transformative. What mindset blocks do you see most often entrepreneurs have? What is one of your favorite ways to help them move through that one?
It's often about feeling that they're enough, feeling that they know enough, and giving
Mm,
themselves credit.
mm,
Giving
mm.
themselves credit. So again, like in my earlier example, like looking back to experiences that they had earlier in their life. Maybe they're
Yes.
starting a new business and they're brand new. It's like, okay, so you're learning something new. Tell me about another time in your life when you learned something new. You learned how to drive, you learned a new language, you went through university, you joined this company and had to learn the lingo and the culture of this company that you're now in that you want to get out of. You know, like,
Yes.
you've demonstrated that you know how to learn and adapt.
Hmm.
So great. All right. Well, now you're going to learn how to run a business.
Right. Exactly.
Um, and then that is so often a light bulb moment that they realize, oh, yeah, okay, I did all this other stuff, so I can do this too. There you go. You can do this too.
You can do
And then
this
it's
too.
just, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So let's ask you this. What does clarity mean to you? It's more than a buzzword, of course, but as a way of being in business and life, I believe that's something you speak so much about. What is your definition of clarity?
It's having a knowing without distractions.
Ooh, just drop the mic. Having a knowing without distractions. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you
And
got to
that and
unpack.
that for and then for, and what that knowing is for
Hmm.
everybody is unique, right?
Yes.
Mm. And to some extent, this may even extend to different spheres in your life because maybe, that purpose, knowing that goal, in your role as a parent, for example, or in a relationship, in your community, who you want to be as a business leader, as an owner. Like,
Hmm.
it's so often just one thing and it's so clear and so unique to every person. And
Hmm.
then the no distractions, it's like, okay, well, what are you letting get in your way? Is it
Hmm.
because you're scrolling on social media? Is it because you're listening to what everyone else is saying? Is it because you're so caught up in this perfectionism or people pleasing? And it's like, let go of and I see this a lot. People that want to make changes in their business. And it's like, yeah, but so and so doesn't like this.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, that's great, but like, are you going to make decisions based on what your business needs, or you're going to try to please every single person on your team? Because they all
Right.
may want something different. And now what?
Yes. Hmm.
So, if the clarity is that you want your business to achieve this target, and you
Yes.
know that this change, switching to a different technology, introducing new product line, like whatever change it is that really believe, again, based on data, based on market research, that this thing is going to help you reach that goal for your business, then
Let's
there's your
let's
clarity. That's
do
what you
it.
need to do. And don't let the
Yeah.
distractions of other people hold you back and get in your way.
That is fire. That is fire. Let me ask you this. Tell us a little bit more about who you coach, how you coach, and if I was listening to you today, I don't think we have to ask that. I want to work with you. So if someone's listening here, they know this is someone I have to work with. Talk to us about who that is and how we do that.
My niche, my expertise, and really my passion is service-based businesses. So when you're selling a service and not stuff.
Mhm.
So, whether that's online or in person, when you're providing some kind of service,
Mhm.
that requires a different level of trust, establishing trust with consumers, very different than selling things, right? You go
Mhm.
to an e-commerce store and you go, that's a cute soap. I'm going to order that as a gift or whatever, like done. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily get into who's the company, who's the person. It can be a very almost impulse
Mhm.
purchase to buy that thing. When you're purchasing a service, when you're hiring, a bookkeeper, someone to do your hair, a graphic designer, like all the different services that you use both in business and for your home
Mm-hmm.
or for yourself or for your kids, tutor. All of these things require a very different level of trust. And
Mm-hmm.
so that means that for the person providing that service, you've got to be really clear about who are you servicing? What problem are you solving? How are you going to demonstrate that you have the capacity to
Mm-hmm.
provide that service to them? How are you going to show that you're trustworthy? And then what's the customer experience journey you're going to create for them so that when they say, "Okay, I'm going to hire you for that thing,"
Yeah.
that you bring them in and give them an outstanding experience that they go, "Wow, that was great. I'm going to tell all my friends and I'm going to hire you again." So I love working with people who are at any stage of that. Sometimes people are just starting out and they're like, "I have this idea and how do I build it?" I've had
Mm-hmm.
people come to me to say, "I started 6 months ago and I've only had one client. What am I doing wrong?" Or people who are like, "Okay, I've been doing this for a few years and I'm kind of stuck at this level." Or I
Yeah.
have all these like things, the systems and process that we have in place worked for where we were back then, but now we're
Mm-hmm.
here and we've outgrown it all. And like, how do I change it? So, at any of those stages, I love to come in and really do a deep dive analysis on
Mm.
what are the systems and structures in place? Where are the gaps? Where are the opportunities to improve and develop in order for them to succeed and reach their business goals?
Oh, I love it. So needed. So needed. And I mean, we don't often think about it. I feel like in the world where even when you're on social media, you're being told, why is your coaching program not filled? Why is this? And a lot of people are not considering your expertise, which is you are providing a service and trust is important. And a lot of times we obviously, because there's so much psychology and strategy that's very specific to service-based business, and then based on the category you're in, and that's where you come in to ensure that your operational system, first of all, your thought processes and the level of clarity is there, and then that operational system is in place to what I would say naturally convert your clientele.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the whole point of the whole value of coaching is that you have someone who's coming in not just with maybe additional experience and expertise and knowledge, but with a fresh set of eyes to look at things from a perspective that you just don't have. I mean, I just worked with a new client recently who's launching a sort of like a coaching, yeah, very much in the coaching space.
Mm-hmm.
I meet her and she's like, "Here's my story. Here's why I'm so passionate about delivering these particular services." And I'm like, "Great. Okay. That's a really compelling story. I love this." And she's got great background. And I look at her website and it's like, none of this is here. None of this is here. It's just got like a generic, stock photo image of a desk. It's like, there's nothing about you. All of this,
All right.
story and all of the compelling stuff you've told me isn't even here. Like, there's nothing
Right.
on here. There's no call to action. There's nothing on here that would make me want to hire you or even reach out to contact you. And it's like, oh, right. Oh, okay. She hadn't even
Click
seen
it.
it.
Right. Didn't click for her. Oh my
It
goodness,
didn't
talking
click for
about
her.
that. Yes. And you again, that's the point of having that coach and that mentor that helps to bring that clarity of what you
Hmm.
need. And you're like, yeah, that would make sense if I did it. Yeah, because you don't catch it. You don't, your vision is here, but your coach's vision is how does your entire ecosystem adds up to where
Yes.
you say you want to go. I say you
Yeah. And
say.
it's connecting all of those dots. And I say, often when I'm speaking with someone and they're just like venting and talking about all these different things, or like, "I'm sorry, I'm talking too much." I'm like, "No, no, no, there's no such thing. Get it all out," because I view it as like a crossword puzzle or a puzzle. You dump it out on the table and you get all the pieces and start to move it around and see how it all fits in. Because in business,
Mm-hmm.
it all needs to fit. Because, okay, you've got all of this, you've got your brand identity, you know who your target market is, you've got your offerings. Let's talk pricing strategy. Or my price is over here. Well, why is your price down there? Because all of your messaging is that you're reaching this target market and that you
Yeah.
have all these credentials and background, and yet your price is like in the basement over here. Like that's a disconnect, you know? And how are you going to make money charging that? You
Right.
know, like it
Oh,
all needs to fit, you know, and then what
yes.
happens after they say yes? You know, what's the onboarding look like? Is there contracts? Is there confidentiality agreements? Like, what's the welcome? What's the, you know, how's the payment gateway? I haven't even
Mhm.
thought of that. It's like, well, okay, we got to put all these pieces together.
Exactly. So fun. Oh my goodness. That is I can see that making a big transformation in anyone who's running a business or starting a business. Better if you get in early. So let's ask you
Yes.
this. We always do flip the script here on Mindset Mastery Moments. Can you tell us about a time that you had to flip the script of your own mindset? What was it? How did that moment change and what was the outcome?
What comes to mind is when I was doing my MBA.
Mhm.
Um, and I had finished the 2-year program and was at the stage now of working on my dissertation, which, as you know, is a big, big, big task. And I
Yeah.
was working, I was pretty much single parent to a teenager, just moved to a different place in London, all these other things going on. And it was so like it was really I really hit a wall with it. Really hit a
Mhm.
wall with feeling like I can't put this together. And I had an advisor who gave me like two completely separate pieces of advice. It's like, well, I can't make it this and make it that. It can't be an apple and an orange. Like, what am I supposed to do with this guidance? Like, this is not. And it was just, you know, because it's like in the end, it was like over 100,000 words, right? It was just an incredible piece.
Mhm.
And I really thought, okay, I can't do this. And I really dug deep to go,
Mhm.
okay, is not doing this an option I can live with?
Mm.
What if? What if I decide, okay, that's it. I'm just not going to finish.
Mm.
And again, clarity.
Mhm.
I realized that's not an option for me.
It's not
I
an
want to
option
finish
for me.
this. I want to finish this. I want to graduate. So, all right, how do I make this done? How do I get this done? How do I chunk this down? How do I create the time? How do I, you know, break it down into bite-sized pieces, like one paragraph at a time. One when that felt too much, one sentence at a time, one reference at a time. I'm going to, you know, like putting together, you know, a piece of IKEA furniture or building something out of Lego. It's like one little piece at a time. And then you get there. And I think that's so emblematic of what I so
Yeah,
believe in is around that consistency, that small changes over time
the time.
consistently creates
Yes,
huge, huge impact. Yes.
that's it. It's a he said it perfectly. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, as high achievers, we tend to overthink that. I know I did, and I can't tell you how many people I meet. We want to have all the information about what it looks like now and when long after we're gone. You can have a vision for what you want it to look like, but the details of how it's going to play out, that I'm sorry, you got to get in the game. You got to put one step in front of the other before you get there.
100%. And you just start living it
Yeah.
because, you know, and be okay with only knowing a certain time frame
Enough. Yeah.
because it's like being on a road, right? Whether it's daylight or a darkness. There's only so much of the
Visibility.
road ahead that you can see, right? And then you've
Facts.
just got to keep moving down the road and then you see the next piece. So when people go, but what about this and this and this and this? It's like, we're not there yet. You're talking about something that could be 2 years away.
Exactly.
So you know
Yeah,
what?
the only way you know what could be down the road is if you've traveled that road already, and no one has. It's
Exactly.
your road.
Yeah. And you know, everything that you've just postulated may never come about because there's like a million other things that can happen in the meantime that means that that particular scenario will never happen. So just start and, you know, do this now
Due
and then just
diligence
keep
to the
moving and
visibility
you
that
can
you do
add
have.
on. Yes. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Yes.
That's the encouragement of the day. Listen, Rebecca, what does success look like to you now compared to what it meant to you years ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something I always encourage my clients as well is like, what does success mean for you? And when people say, I want the business to be better, okay, what's better exactly? Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean? And I guess for me personally, success for me is to work with people where I really bring value and that I enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
And to have a balance between the work that I love and doing other things that I love.
Mm,
Because, I think for a long time, the business was so all encompassing. Raising children took a lot of energy and time, and there was really no room, which to some extent I own that was my decision, no room for hobbies and doing
mm.
all the things that I enjoy. And it's funny, my father gave me this advice some years ago now, something I wish I'd heard a lot earlier. He said, "Do whatever you need to do to make you happy." And
Mm,
if that means like turning off the computer and reading a book in the evening, then that's what you do. Like
mhm.
do what makes you happy. So I think for me, success is feeling happy every day.
I love it. I love it. Happiness. I love that. Rebecca, before we close, I'd love to give our listeners a mindset bite to go. That is one truth or a tool or a takeaway that can help them disrupt their own limitations. Rebecca, if you had to leave our audience with one piece of wisdom, one sentence they could carry into their next decision, next chapter, or business move, what would that be? I step away from the camera and the microphone, and it's all you. Here we go.
Change is possible. I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. Change is
Wow.
possible.
Wow. That is going to be the most mind blowing. I promise you all, somebody has to produce the collection of these sessions of Mindset Bicycle. They're a whole entire podcast by itself. And you just dropped the shortest, most powerful one. Do you believe that change is possible? Make it go. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Rebecca, I know everyone's listening and they want to know what's your favorite way of connecting with you. Of course, Disruptors, we have everything in our link in the description where you're watching or listening to this episode. But tell us, how would you prefer for us to, which route would you prefer for us to go?
Yeah, I think my website is a great place to go. You can see a little bit more about my background and take a look at some coaching options. And there's a link where you can book a free call with me to just have a chat because fit is really important.
Mhm.
And so, I welcome the opportunities to have a short chat with someone to hear about where they are with their business, where they want to go, and I can share ideas about how I can help them get there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you for reminding us that reinvention is not just possible, it is powerful and change is possible. You've shown us that clarity is born from courage and that the story isn't over just because the chapter changes. And to our listeners,
Very
you
true.
have been, yes, to our listeners, you have been standing in the ashes of what used to be. Wondering if you can build, let this conversation be your proof. You can rebuild. And I would say you must. And when you lead with mindset mastery, you don't just rebuild what was, you rise into what's next. To connect with Rebecca, remember to go to RebeccaPage-Chapman.com or follow her journey on LinkedIn and Instagram. All her information is right here in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Disruptors, as always, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do become. I'm Dr. Alisa with my co-host today, Rebecca Page-Chapman. Stay tuned for more from her, and I'm pretty sure she'll be back on the podcast. Have an amazing rest of your day. Share this with someone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.